Chapter 32. They ate quietly, leaving the dogs inside, then headed out. The air felt heavier than usual, as if the world already knew what they were about to do. Ernie walked ahead toward the barn. He didn't speak. He didn't look back. He just moved with the slow, deliberate steps of a man bracing himself for something he wished he could avoid. Inside the barn, he climbed onto the backhoe. His hands trembled once, just once, before he steadied them on the controls. The engine rumbled to life, loud and wrong in the quiet. He drove toward the back of the compound, near the rear wall. The others followed at a respectful distance. No one intruded on his grief. He stopped at the chosen spot and stared at the ground. These were people he'd worked beside, laughed with, argued with, trusted. People who had trusted him. People who knew the plan. People who knew what to do. He knew it wasn't all his fault. He knew they were capable. He knew they made choices he couldn't control. His mind knew that. His heart didn't. He lowered the bucket and began to dig. The soil gave way slowly, each scoop a dull thud that echoed across the compound. Tears blurred his vision, but he didn't wipe them away. He didn't hide them either. He just kept digging, steady and slow, as if rushing would be disrespectful. Skye stood off to the side, arms wrapped around herself. The grief hit her like a wave, sharp and cold. But her face stayed still. Old habits. Old training. She kept her breathing even, the way she'd learned to do when crying wasn't allowed. Her chest ached, but she didn't let it show. Without realizing it, she matched Ernie's stance, shoulders slightly forward, weight shifting the same way he shifted his. When he exhaled, she did too. Quiet mirroring, instinctive and unnoticed. High in a tree outside the wall, Ben watched through binoculars. The kid was too calm. Too steady. It wasn't right. It made something tighten in his chest, something he didn't have a name for. He kept checking on him, on the smallest figure standing too still, too controlled. The boy looked carved out of stone. It took about 30 minutes for Ernie to finish the grave. When he finally shut off the machine, the silence that followed felt thick enough to choke on. They moved to the bodies. No one spoke. No one breathed too loudly. They lifted 5 at a time, grouping them as families. Skye's hands shook once when she picked up a child, but she forced them still. She swallowed hard, her face blank, her eyes dry. Ben saw the tremor even from the tree. He looked away to give the kid privacy. Fred asked for the names, voice barely above a whisper. Ernie told him, each name scraping something raw inside him. Fred disappeared into the barn and returned with crosses, simple, rough, but carved with care. He placed each one at the head of a family's resting place. As the graves were covered, the crosses stood tall, the names bold against the wood. When the last mound was smoothed over, they gathered at the foot of the grave. Heads bowed. Shoulders slumped. Hearts raw. These were good people, Ernie said, voice thick. They worked hard getting this place together. His voice cracked once. Just once. Skye felt it like a punch. Ben felt it too, even from the tree. They stood there until the cold finally forced them to move. But none of them walked away lighter. Grief clung to them like a second skin. They returned to the house, weary and silent. Ben stayed in the tree, scanning the area. A faint motorized sound caught his attention. He turned, catching a reflection, cameras. Of course the old man had surveillance. Ben was sure there were traps too, trip wires, maybe explosives. He didn't know enough to risk getting closer. And he didn't want them to know he was there. He settled back into the branches, wrapped in an emergency blanket, waiting. Hours later, a car pulled up to the gate. Ben was awake instantly. He dropped from the tree, landing soft and controlled, and moved low through the woods. He grabbed his night vision and sniper rifle as he ran, circling behind the vehicle. At the gate, someone tried entering a code. Ernie had disabled the gate so no one, not even their own group, could open it. With only 4 of them, they needed every advantage. An alarm sounded in the house. The group geared up and moved out, splitting into positions. Ben saw the dog following the smallest figure closely. The kid. Always the kid. Sky moved further out, close enough for a shot, far enough to stay unseen. Ben tracked him automatically, adjusting his own position to avoid crossing the boy's line of fire. He didn't think about it. He just did it. Ernie climbed into the guard hut. Fred and Letty took positions along the wall. Someone stepped out of the car, just shadows. Sky pulled out night vision. Ben saw the reflection. He'd have to warn the kid about that. If he wanted to, he could drop him from the tree. Shepard, something isn't right, Sky whispered into the earpiece. There are several people in the car, but it looks like there's a kid in the front seat and an adult leaning forward with his arm around the kid. Ernie's earpiece was low, but he heard her. Remove your night vision. I'm turning on the light. He flipped on the spotlight. Ben jerked his night vision off, blinking rapidly. Sky had already lowered hers. Ernie? Is that you? It's me, Mike, a voice called. Another man stepped out behind him. Mike flinched. Something was wrong. Shepard, the man behind the driver, has a gun to his back, Fred whispered. Ben moved deeper into the woods, circling behind the driver's side. He set up his sniper rifle, ensuring the kid wasn't in his line of fire. This is Sarge, he whispered over the radio. I've got a line of sight on the male behind the driver. I'm 500 clicks to the right of the gate. Kid, can you get a line on the one behind the kid? I'm guessing he's got a gun on the seat back. Sky didn't hesitate. I've got the line, Sarge. Any advice? I don't want him to misfire and hit the child. Headshots are always best, kid. Keeps them from coming back the other way. Mike, yeah, it's me, Ernie called. Who's with you? This is my brother, Jimmy, Mike said. Ernie froze. Mike was an only child. 3 clicks on the radio. Trouble. When I climb down out of the line of fire, you're free to take out those 2 men, Ernie whispered. Ben adjusted his rifle. Kid, when I say 3, we fire together. I'll take the man behind the driver. You take the one in the back seat. Angle toward the backrest. Got it, Sarge. 1, 2, 3. 2 shots cracked. 2 bodies dropped. The woman and children screamed. Chaos for a moment. Mike, was it just the 2? Ernie shouted. Yeah. Ernie opened the gate. All clear. Ben stayed outside the wall, watching them gather. Sky stood apart, watching the woods, watching him. Even from a distance, he felt the kid's attention like a pull. Sarge, get in here, Ernie said over the radio. Only then did Ben break cover and run through the gate. Mike's family climbed out, shaken. Shattered glass fell from their clothes. The dead man's pistol hung loosely in his hand. Ernie removed it before the kids could see. Sky watched Ben with a mix of confusion and something else she didn't have a name for. Why was he here? Where were his men? How had he followed them? Ernie, thank God, Mike said. We didn't know what to do. We thought they were good people, but once we got here, they pulled this. He swallowed hard. They always had a gun on one of my kids or my wife. Always. They rotated who they threatened so I couldn't predict it. Every time I even thought about making a move, one of them pressed a gun to someone I love. If I'd tried anything, they would have killed them. The hint was all I could give. Ernie nodded. Mike, if you thought you had a chance, you would have taken it. I know you. And if it had been my family, I'd have done the same. That's why we set up signals like that. You were lucky we arrived when we did. A few hours earlier and you'd have beaten us here. Are there more coming? Mike's head dropped. They were talking to a group as we drove. Sounded like a decent-sized one. I don't know how long until they get here or how many are armed. They were careful about what they said. I'm just glad this didn't happen inside the walls. If they'd made me let them in, they would have killed us.